I want to welcome everybody and thank you for being here, taking the time out of your, I know, very busy day and schedule to be here. We appreciate that very much. As you know, I'm Steve McLaughlin, represent all of you and all of your schools in the 107th Assembly District. Used to be the 108th, but with redistricting, reshuffling of all the lines, territory changed. It's now the 107th. So some new territory, some old territory. But I think what I'm going to do is just take a few minutes, kind of tell you what I'm thinking. But mostly this day is about you and your students and your schools. And I really am here to listen, much more so than talk, which my wife would find interesting because usually I'm doing the talking. But and Dana knows, she's from my wife's school in Lansingburg. But my wife teaches pre-K down there in Turnpike Elementary. But you know, obviously coming from my spouse is an educator, and education is very near and dear to us. Of course, we have two kids in the Hoosick Valley School District, Danny and Sean, and Tim actually coached Sean. Everybody's connected in Rensselaer County somewhere, Columbia, Washington. Everybody's connected in some way. Tim was my son's hockey coach for a long time, and so it's nice to see a lot of familiar faces here. But I just want to take a minute to introduce everybody on our team that's here. Thank the press for coming. Appreciate you taking the time to be here today. I'm not sure that this has been done before, and for me, I always want to talk to people that have boots on the ground, people that are in the trenches every single day. I talk to all your superintendents. I talk to all your business managers. I get the money part, and I get that there's not enough of it. That much we definitely hear all the time from NYSET and from the business managers and the superintendents. But really, I want to see what you guys and ladies are dealing with in the classroom. And we'll go over some topics here in a few minutes. And that's really, I think, going to be helpful to me to take back to Albany to try to certainly use the money that we have as wisely as we can and try to lessen the hurdles that you're dealing with. And I think I know what some of those are, but we'll certainly talk about those. And I think we should probably maybe break into APPR, topic 1, and go with that. And if you have this, our sort of the bullet points there, do you have that in front of you? Our standards effective nurturing relationship between teacher and student and things like that. So, you know, I can only tell you, we brought that bill out on the floor. That was one of those all-night sessions that we did last year. That one I seem to remember talking, it was about 2 a.m. when we were talking with it. Now, I don't know why that needed to be done on a message of necessity, which it was, and why we jammed that through. You folks went to bed, woke up, you had APPR. I did fight against it, but you know when it hits the floor, it's going to pass. It wouldn't be on that floor unless it was going to pass. So, you know, I stood up and said, you know, I made my points on there, let's put it that way. But really, I want to see how you're dealing with it, what the impact is, and anybody that has some input. Let's go.
Just to talk about APPR, I guess I'll use some of my background as a history teacher and just say, you know, if we were to all go back to 1983 when they came out with a report called A Nation at Risk, the basic description of education then, and I was a sophomore in high school at that point, was that schools were failing, kids weren't college ready, and it's all the same stuff that we hear now. And then we went through about 20 years of Goals 2000 and America 2000, and it all was about how do we measure students, how do we measure achievement, and all those things. And that ended up in 2002 with No Child Left Behind Act, which really emphasized testing on a level that had never been seen before and really changed education. And I find it very disturbing that we would then go through 10 years of that, and then everybody says, oh my gosh, look at all this testing, what's going on with these kids? And after 10 years of trying to fix the problem gets worse. And then the answer becomes Race to the Top and APPR, which is No Child Left Behind turned up to 20. I mean, it's more and more of it. And I will be honest with you, I'm a believer that this is being done on purpose. I feel like schools are on attack on purpose because there's $700 billion out there that's being spent in education. And I see things like Common Core coming through, and I see people behind park testing that's going to test this, that are going to make money off the software and make money. Pearson's going to make money here, and they're going to make money. Everybody's making money off of them getting their hands on this money. And I'm sure all of us agree, this is unacceptable. This is about our kids. You know, I mean, these are our little kids, and this is not some game for you to make a profit with. This is about kids. And I think all of us, most of us would probably agree that all of this testing is going to destroy their education. right? They're going to come out with this sort of narrow perspective of what learning is. It's taking the enjoyment out of learning. I mean, I have kids. I'm obviously a teacher. You know what I want? I want kids who leave school more than anything else with a disposition and a love of learning. They want to learn, right? Most of us probably all started learning when we got out of school, right? That's when you read the book you were supposed to read in high school, and you said, this book is awesome, right? In ninth grade, you got the Cliff Notes or something like that. But that's because then it was a task. You were going to be tested on it. What would ever happen if we ever started off in kindergarten and our total focus was to make kids love learning? What would happen if that was our focus? So, I think that we're doing real damage, and I think it's a big, big picture, and we're up something against something really important and big here.
Yeah.
Well, they gave some first graders and I think even kindergartners pre-assessments this year.
They don't really understand even how to open up and take a test like that. The kids crying all over the place, right? And I mean, that is actually becomes a whole other level that is really
just unfair. They don't know what
unfair.
a test is.
Yeah.
Sure.
They don't know what that situation means.
Yeah.
They can't conceptualize the whole, process of what I'm asking them to do. I had them in an ABA type fashion point to or show me. I had students that didn't even know yet, because it was the first, month of school, what that meant. What does point to mean?
Mm-hmm.
So the kids that want to learn, it goes back to what you were saying. Children who are passionate about learning are seeing that it doesn't matter how happy it makes me. It doesn't matter what I want to know. It doesn't almost I feel sad because some of the children are starting to believe, what does it matter what I want to be when I grow up? When all you're going to do to me all day is test me and throw knowledge at me, feed it, and just because you have to.
Right.
And it's really debilitating to any sound education program.
Yeah. So you get regurgitation, right? They just jam it down, and hopefully they regurgitate it correctly, and then there's.
And then the tests are asking them to do higher level thinking.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense
time
whatsoever.
to teach the higher level thinking.
Right. What basically the message I get from the state is that I am going to do something miraculous and take a child that has multiple disabilities and an IQ of 55 and get them to pass the same test that we're all talking about right here, because they have to take them. But then, and I have had students know enough and train enough, and I've put them through the boot camp enough, and they've passed. But it's like, I've had nightmares. I can't sleep. I was sitting there with a kid who is, doing 35 times 5. He wrote out 35 5s and did repeated addition because that's the way I know he learns. And he sat there and did it correctly. Yeah. He's my new hero. Yeah. I'll never forget it. It happened 2 years ago, and it's like, those are the things that we teachers take away from our job. But how do you let the state know that that's what should be valued? It's those little heroes that come out of this war that we're waging on them when they don't want to be active participants in this nonsense.
This year has been having Common Core completely as my focus and saying, okay, I'm supposed to be facilitating student learning, and they're supposed to be discovering things and having an understanding of topics where it used to be, build skills, and you have a toolbox of skills and you figure out how to use them. Now it's like, no, we'll teach you, we'll give you all these strategies and you become critical thinkers and problem solvers. But the skills aren't there, because again, it was, it's implemented and tested for the first time this year, and no one has made that switch until this year. So, okay, 8th graders are supposed to be fluent in all of these skills, and they're not. And so we're supposed to be teaching you problem solving with that fluency, and they don't have it.
Well, we've all heard of this building a plane in the air. Have you heard all this stuff? YouTube video, I've seen it and stuff, and it's, I don't know if you've heard it, Steve, but they refer to it as a good thing. That is not a good thing, and I mean they actually show it to promote. Hey, we're running into this, and although not everything's figured out, we're building the plane in the air. Well, our kids are on the plane. Yeah. And I don't. But that's happening a lot. Even a lot of the things that she's saying there all has to do with this. This is happening. Then at the last second we figure this out. Then we figure this out. And then we put this into it. Makes it very difficult to do it right. Which makes me think, Somebody's not trying to do it right. This isn't about doing it right. It's about a whole other bunch of other reasons, and that's why we've been cut out of this conversation in a lot of ways, because we would say you're not doing it right. They're not worried about that.
So they are literally admitting that they're doing this on the fly.
Correct.
Literally.
Correct.
Competitive grants is just infuriating that he's
Mind-boggling.
putting out there, and he's saying this huge amount of money is going to education.
It's not.
It is not, and it's a lie, and New York State doesn't understand it.
Yeah.
And with that, our district is trying to get as many grants, because we're 1.6 million in the hole again. And in order to do that, the grants that he has available, we only qualify for 3, I think, of the 8 that he has available.
Yeah.
So most districts across New York State can't even apply for some of these grants because they don't qualify.
Yeah, that's right.
So his lying to the New York State people isn't being broadcast. I don't know if even the Assemblymen are aware of how many different districts are eliminated from any of them.
Right. Well, I will say that we are aware.
I think every legislator once a month ought to go about 8:30 to an elementary school, watch all the buses pull in, watch those little kids get off with their backpacks, waddling in, right? Because I do every once in a while. I got a free period where every once in a while I'm like, yeah, my daughter, sometimes I can wave to her or whatever. I'll just watch her, and I often see all those kids from K through 5 walking to school, and you think everybody should see that, because that's what you're talking about. You know, and this, whether you're talking about a budget thing or too much testing and all that stuff, but it really brings you back to, that's what it's about.